Avalanches, destructive forces of nature that kill hundreds of people each year. If you're caught in one of these giant snowslides, tumbling, drowning underneath a wall of snow, a dog's wet nose may be the best sight you've ever seen, and your best chance to make it out alive.
Ryan, he's not breathing very good. Can you hear me, Ryan? Ryan, can you hear me?
Mountain rescue crews know all too well the deadly destruction an avalanche can leave in its wake. But when disaster struck the slopes of western British Columbia one winter, crews responding to the call were horrified to learn that two of their own were buried in the slide. Al Evanchik and Al Monroe, affectionately known as the Two Als, were avalanche technicians. It was their job to keep the highway safe by analyzing the snow and predicting where the next avalanche might strike. But on this day, something went horribly wrong. A helicopter pilot was the last to see them alive when he dropped them off at the top of the mountain that morning. They had planned to ski their way down, performing snow tests along the way, but they never made it. Scott Aiken, an avalanche technician and certified CARTA search and rescue team member, was a friend and co-worker of the two men.
We'll never really know what led them astray. It was, you know, it was a big place that they were in, and they both got caught, and all the other details they took down the slope with them.
Since losing his friends, Scott is more determined than ever to keep training, knowing that when an avalanche strikes, he's the victim's only hope. But he knows that his ability to rescue someone is only possible with the help of his partner and all-around best friend, Decker. Decker is a certified avalanche rescue dog, specially trained to locate buried victims. He's a star amongst a team of canine athletes, dedicated to saving lives on the mountain.
I got a rescue dog because I was brought up around Labradors. Dogs are great for just keeping you grounded and living in the moment.
Labrador retrievers like Decker make great avalanche rescue dogs. They're athletic, they love to please, and as their name suggests, they have a natural instinct to retrieve things, even buried bodies.
On a typical workday, Decker comes in and doesn't quite wake me up, but he knows that it's time to get up. You know, I give him his kibble in the morning and turn on the morning weather. Well, when I go to work, Decker comes along with me. He's my partner. He likes to work, I'm lucky. Keep it fun, that's the key. That's enough. Now he's gonna bark. Yes. Oh, I know you want more. Anticipating when the weather is going to affect the snowpack on certain terrain is really quite challenging, and snow is always changing. It's a fascinating medium. Freezing level 2,700 meters. That sounds like climate change.
Some days, Scott is a meteorologist. Other days, a scientist. Always a dog handler, ready to respond to any emergency at a moment's notice. Once Scott determines the avalanche hazard for the day, he and Decker hit the road.
The main part of my job is going out and observing, you know, along the highway corridor where we have known avalanche sites to make sure it's safe for the highway.
Scott and Decker check the roads from the ground and the air, covering 300 miles of highway. It's a big responsibility. Scott knows it's up to him to spot any danger signs and take the necessary precautions before it's too late.
Afternoon stand 117 here. We're wrapped up in the Duffy Lake. No more delays. The road's clear.
Imagine a force like this barreling down a mountain at 200 miles an hour, dumping tons of snow and debris on the highway. A level 4 avalanche can destroy a railway car. A level 5, the largest avalanche known, can wipe out an entire town.
When we determine that the hazard is at too high a level for the highway to be open, we will sometimes close the highway. We are on call 24/7. We can get pretty sleep deprived at times. I get pretty excited out in the thick of a big storm when you're barely able to see the shoulder of the road. There's lots of chatter on the radio, and you're making connections with all the players. You had delay for visibility here to get off the ground. It's really all sort of demanding of all your attention, and it's all encompassing.
Code Alpha, all patrollers respond.
Coming up, a dramatic avalanche rescue drill. The dogs have only minutes to recover 9 victims buried in the snow. Will they reach them in time? Then, it takes just a little oxygen and propane to control avalanches on the mountain. But one wrong step could mean the difference between life and death. The story and more when we return.
Code Alpha, all patrollers respond.
It's the most important call in an avalanche dog's career. An avalanche is hit. Victims are buried. The rescue team spring into action. Only this time, it isn't a real rescue, but a highly realistic simulation to test how the dogs and their handlers perform.
I just saw somebody get caught in an avalanche over here, and there's maybe 7, 9 people.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, and they all got caught in that avalanche?
I didn't see any of them come out of the avalanche at all. They're all buried, I think.
Okay.
9 large packs representing avalanche victims are buried on the mountain, and it's up to the rescue teams to find them.
Dispatch, I have a report of a Code Alpha in Opal Bowl. I have the witness with me.
Training like this is essential, because in a real avalanche, there is no time for error. Half of all avalanche victims die after 30 minutes buried beneath the snow. The rescuers quickly fan out.
Okay, dispatch, we're in Opal Bowl. Looks like a size 2 avalanche. Sounds like between 7 and 9 people buried. We're starting a transceiver and scuff search now. Please get the dogs on the way.
Decker is the only experienced rescue dog on site. The 2 younger dogs, Haley and Burley, are here to observe and get some tips from the big dog.
Get your probes out and ready. We'll let Decker and Scott work the debris, and then we'll come back and probe the likely areas.
The rescuers set up a probe line. Using long rods, they poke the snow, hoping to locate a victim.
Strike! Fiona, this patient's breathing. We're going to continue respiration efforts for them.
Hey, Fiona, I have an unconscious male, no pulse, not breathing.
For the rescuers, it's treacherous work. But to Decker, it's a game. He knows if he finds a buried item, he gets a reward. Decker picks up a scent. And locates a buried victim.
Dog! Oh, yes, I got Decker, dog!
A dog is a being who thinks through his nose, and that's the advantage that they have in searching for avalanches over us and our technologies. They can smell 1 grain of sand out of a dump truck load full.
Decker? Sir!
When Decker and I are in a search scenario, So it's a mixture of letting him work with his own instinct on how the scent's moving and me moving him into that scent cone.
Why? Fiona, strike!
Decker finds the last victim and lets everyone on the mountain know it. It took the team 30 minutes to find the 9 buried packs. In a real avalanche, there's a good chance those victims would have made it out alive.
So, I mean, I thought it went pretty smooth. I thought you guys did a great job.
Decker did the job, locating 2 victims.
Dog's great, handler needs work.
These training exercises provide critical input for the handlers and their dogs, allowing them to retrace their steps and learn how to avoid potential problems in a real avalanche rescue. Today was a mock code alpha exercise, but they know tomorrow could be the real deal. Up next, it's Scott and Decker's job to make sure the mountain is safe. But what happens when a daily routine turns dangerous? And later, a deadly avalanche. 2 lives lost in a matter of seconds. The lessons learned and the legacy that lives on.
Have I told you how smart my dog is? Shh, don't bark. Here. Oh, yes. You want to go? Yeah? So I guess we should head out to the field.
Then I'm really keen to get out and look at the snowpack. I want to see how that November crust is deteriorating or strengthening, as the case may be. So we'll go up to the summit, snowmobile up to just around tree line.
You want to get going, don't you? You hot to trot? All right, that's enough. Come on, Daniel, let's go. Crash, buddy. Yeah, good face plant. So we'll just go and dig a snow profile off to the side here in the undisturbed snow and see how things are progressing.
With the nose of a detective, Scott investigates the snowpack, looking for signs of potential problems. The clues are in the layers of snow.
When I dig a snow profile, I am looking at layering and how those layers are interacting. So if we have a weak layer in there, that'll be of concern, and I want to go ahead and test that layer through stability test or a slope test. You feel the changes in hardness? Good dog here. Sure, there's 2 main types. There's slab avalanches I've mentioned, and there's loose avalanches, which start from point and fan out. They tend to be not as large or destructive.
Slab avalanches are the most dangerous. They're difficult to see and avoid. And with a loud crack, the slab can break loose and crash down the mountain in seconds.
Avalanches that fail as slabs have to have persistent weak layers within the snowpack that once they're loaded up with a big dump of snow, a big slab, can fail in kind of catastrophic proportions. Most of the avalanche accidents that people die in the Coast Range are either surface horror or faceted layer. That's why we pay attention to them. Surface horror looks like a lot of little flat feathers growing on the snow surface, and it's the winter equivalent of dew.
It's also the most dangerous kind of snow because it slides so easily.
Surface horror 3 millimeters. Slightly rounded. 3 to 4.
He eyes it, even tastes it to determine its density.
Crunchy. Sitting underneath a crust. But the crust is just enough to bridge it right now. So enough to keep it from sliding, but it might break down and be a problem in the future where it has an avalanche.
And then he tests it. The tilt test helps Scott determine the strength of the snow.
See if any. This is a good test for new snow layers.
When an avalanche strikes, it can wreak havoc on the highways, tying up traffic, forcing road closures, causing accidents.
Avalanches affect the highway from time to time, usually during storm periods. If an avalanche is down and people drive up to it, get out of their vehicles to see what's going on, another avalanche can come down at that time, and then we have a real problem on our hands.
To keep the highways open and safe, Scott and Decker launch a preemptive strike, intentionally triggering a slide with explosives, blowing up potential hazards before they become a bigger problem.
Close the road, sweep it, bring the avalanches down. We're trying to make small avalanches out of big ones.
Avalanche technicians can bomb from a helicopter, a 105mm howitzer, or from this high-tech device embedded in the mountain.
What we have is a remote control gas exploder, and that's called a GasX. We're able to set off blasts from a gas exploder remotely with a radio and a radio modem and a laptop computer. And we'll bring down the unstable snow layers to make it safe again.
Scott and Decker catch a helicopter ride to where avalanches are born, on the high slopes above the tree line.
Out at our 3 o'clock, that's where I saw the biggest avalanche. Hillcrop Glacier? No. Came down, smoked the lake, and threw ice 10 meters up on this shore. Wow. 4.5.
Scott's partner, Doug, mans the controls from the truck below.
Decker, place, settle.
Decker keeps watch while Scott tests the snow.
When we want to make a blast, Doug can make a link up to the shelter on top, ask for a blast from a certain exploder. That doses out 5 parts of oxygen to 1 part propane, which is sparked off inside this exploder, and a shock wave comes out and releases the unstable snow layers. We'll feel it a bit here.
1171. Yeah, Doug, sweep has been done. You're clear to do control.
Copy that. 15 seconds. 10 seconds. Okay.
Scott and Decker leave the mountain, confident that the snowpack is secure, at least for now.
I just saw the huge fracture lines across the whole mountainside afterwards.
Up next, a personal account of what it's like to experience an avalanche up close, and a look back at the deadly slide that claimed the lives of Scott's friends and coworkers. Over the years, training together as a search and rescue team, Scott Aiken and his dog Decker have seen their share of avalanches.
The biggest I've seen which is a pretty long time here, would be a size 4.5. I just saw the huge fracture lines across the whole mountainside afterwards, and the debris at the bottom and the shattered outhouse in the park, amongst other things. It threw cakes of ice 10 meters up onto the shore, kind of a mini tsunami effect. Probably the biggest avalanches in motion I have seen were in Fernie, where they would just knock 200-year-old fir trees that were 2 feet around to the butt. They just knocked them down like matchsticks. Awesome force.
Scott even has first-hand knowledge of what it's like to be in an avalanche.
I have been caught up in very small avalanches, so I got a feeling for how you get tumbled, and especially at the leading edge of it, it really wants to tumble you under. You accelerate very fast, and it's quite hard to escape an avalanche once you're fully involved in it. It's pretty humbling seeing a big avalanche run. You really get an idea of the force of it. It really gets into your soul. The experience of being out where there's nothing but just snow and mountains and very few other people. There's also big consequences out there, so it gives you a challenge of just maintaining a good safety margin.
The avalanche, which claimed the lives of Al Evanchik and Al Monroe, was particularly hard on Scott. Not only were they his friends and co-workers, they were the first avalanche technicians to die on the job in North America. Their tragic deaths were a wake-up call for everyone who worked on the mountain. If these highly trained, experienced avalanche technicians could get caught in nature's wrath, it could happen to anyone.
In a way, something good came out of that accident. We had to really turn our sights inward and look at, see how we were doing things and what we had to change.
The Canadian Avalanche Association stepped up education and training for rescuers and added more avalanche rescue dogs to the area. That spring, Scott and Decker and several friends headed north to the avalanche site for a memorial service. A rest stop in Canada is now named after the fallen heroes.
We found Al's pack. It had been buried for 5 months, and dug it out and got out his field book or whatever other things. It was a bit of closure for the family, finally getting back the last of his personal effects.
It was a difficult time for Scott and the other rescue workers on the mountain, but it was also a reminder of how important their work is. Scott knows they can't save every life, but along with their trusted canine companions, they'll never stop trying.
Are you happy, dog? Yes, you're a happy dog. Okay, in the truck. That's a good dog.
In avalanche zones, where man and mountain converge, that's an invaluable gift.
As more people in our society get out into the mountains, more people are at risk. And because more people are at risk, the societal value of what these dogs can do increases. The greatest satisfaction we could ever have in our career is to find somebody and rescue them and save their lives.